My parents gave my brother a luxury birthday weekend. I got a card that said, maybe next year. So I quietly booked a one-way flight. My name is Leo. I'm 27 and have always been the quiet one in the family. Not in a shy, shrinking violet way, but as someone who learned early on that speaking up often resulted in an eye roll, a dismissive laugh, or a, "Don't be so sensitive," from my mother. It wasn't always this way. Perhaps it was, and I just didn't realize it as a kid. But I do now. It was especially evident on my birthday this year, when everything that had been simmering beneath the surface for years came to a boil. Let me clarify. My younger brother, Victor, turned 25 in March. Our parents treated him to what can only be described as a luxurious weekend retreat. They leased a lake house 3 hours out of town. A modern glass lodge complete with a wraparound deck, hot tub, fire pit, and private dock. They brought in 2 of his out-of-state pals and hired a private chef for the weekend. The photographs were shared all over Facebook. My mom captioned the photos, "So proud of our baby boy. Celebrating Victor in style. He deserves the world." There were group photos of them drinking champagne, fishing, playing poker, and laughing around a campfire. One photo featured Victor with the message, "A king deserves a castle." I did not like the photographs. I did not make a comment. I didn't say anything actually. However, that was the first time I felt it in my chest. Not jealousy, but a subtle, creeping knowledge that they would not do this for me. Not because they couldn't, but because they didn't believe I was worth it. Still, I brushed it off. Victor has always been the golden child. He's boisterous, charming, and naturally social. Growing up, I was the straight A student, the one who did not cause trouble and remained up late studying rather than sneaking away. That rendered me invisible. But I imagined they'd do something special for my birthday. My birthday was 2 weeks ago on April 5th. I cleared the schedule just in case. I didn't make any plans with friends. I didn't book anything myself. I didn't want to disrupt any surprise plans, you know? Around 1 p.m., I received a text from my mother. "Stop by the house when you're free today." That was it. No exclamation point. No happy birthday. Nothing. I sighed but went. I told myself she was probably just keeping it cool. Perhaps they were planning something little yet meaningful. I arrived around 3 p.m. Victor was on the couch, going through his phone. Dad was out back mowing the yard. Mom was in the kitchen, humming. When she spotted me, she grinned as if I had stopped in on a Tuesday. "Oh hey Leo," she said. "You made it." I stood in the entryway for a moment. "Yeah, you said to stop by." She nodded, cleaned her hands with a dish towel, and reached inside the refrigerator. "I picked up a cupcake for you," she explained, placing it on the counter. It was one of those basic grocery store cakes, chocolate foundation, white icing, and no candle. She handed me a card in a plain white envelope that was already half opened. Inside was a folded piece of cardstock with the words, "Maybe next year," written in metallic letters. That was it. No personalized message. Not a joke. Just that. Victor did not even look up. I offered a little laugh, more out of surprise than amusement. "That's it?" My mother raised her eyebrows. "Excuse me? This is it? A store-bought cupcake and a card that literally says, 'Maybe next year'?" She leaned on the counter, arms crossed. "Don't be so sensitive, Leo. You're an adult. We figured you didn't need all the hoopla." But Victor got a whole weekend retreat, a chef, a cabin, a crown that said Birthday King. "Well, Victor's been going through a hard time," she yelled. "And he's more celebratory. You're so private. We didn't think you'd want a big fuss." I just stood there, the card limp in my palm, and the cupcake began to sweat under the fluorescent lights. My face felt flushed, but my voice remained calm. "It's not about a big fuss. It's about the difference." She rolled her eyes. "Honestly, Leo, this is exactly why we didn't plan anything. You always make everything about you." That did something to me. Something deep. I'd spent most of my life justifying this type of treatment, convincing myself they meant well, and that I was only imagining things. But at that point, I recognized it wasn't me. It never was. I did not argue. I did not raise my voice. I simply reached into my jacket pocket, brought out my phone, and took a snapshot of the lone cupcake resting next to the card. I looked at my mother and replied, "Thanks." Then I turned around to leave. I got in my car, drove straight to my apartment, and scheduled a flight to Lisbon for the following morning. I had been saving for a vacation for 2 years, waiting for the ideal time. So, this was it. That night as I was packing, my father texted me. "No greetings, just say, 'Where did you go?'" I didn't respond. Instead, I shared a photo on Instagram of myself at the airport lounge, boarding pass in hand. The title, "Birthday Retreat. No chef required." Victor liked it after about an hour. So did my cousin Danielle. Then I noticed Mom had viewed my story. 10 minutes later, her name flashed on my screen. I let it ring. Then I silenced it. I sat back, sipped my drink, and awaited the next ping. It did not take long. Another call, then a text. "Leo, this isn't funny. Call me." But I was not trying to be funny. I was done being an afterthought. I was finally putting myself first. And Lisbon? Lisbon was only the beginning. I arrived in Lisbon early the next morning, just as the sun was shining gold on the terracotta rooftops. The air was cool and crisp, with a faint scent of ocean and pastry. When I stepped out of the airport, I took a deep breath and felt lighter than I had in a long time. Not in a holiday sense, but more like a weight had been silently taken off my back. One I had no idea I had been carrying for the majority of my life. My hotel was a modest space nestled between 2 faded pink buildings in the Alhama neighborhood. It had uneven walls and a little balcony that overlooked the city. I sat on the bed, and it creaked. The flooring was old but tidy, and it felt familiar, like no one here anticipated anything from me or predetermined who I was before I ever talked. I didn't answer my folks' texts, not right away, not after the 4th call either. The tone of the messages only shifted after I shared a snapshot of a pastel de nata on my account with the phrase, "Breakfast of Kings." At first, it seemed confusing. "You're in Portugal? Is this a work trip? You didn't tell anyone you were leaving." Then came the guilt. "We just wanted a low-key day. Victor didn't even ask for all that stuff. We just thought he needed it." It was supposed to be funny, the card. "You're taking it too seriously." But the last one from my mother resonated with me. "You always act like we treat you so horribly, but you never say what you actually want. Maybe if you spoke up more, things would be different." That's when I realized, she didn't get it. She never had. This wasn't because I wanted balloons and a party. This was not about jealousy. This was about years of being ignored, dismissed, and told I was too quiet or sensitive if I brought it up. It was about them going above and above for Victor, while I became background noise, acknowledged only when it was convenient or when I stopped playing along. On the second night, I sat in a little fado tavern, drinking my drink, while a woman sang in tears. I stared at my phone, her voice haunting and gentle behind me, and eventually texted my father back. I went somewhere I mattered. I did not hear back immediately away, but the next day, I received a group message. It came from Victor. "Dude, what is going on? Mom's freaking out. She thinks you're disappearing or something. She's calling every cousin asking where you are. And why are you being so dramatic? It was just a cupcake. Grow up." I didn't respond to that one either. Instead, I browsed Airbnb and extended my stay. 2 more weeks. I started developing lists of what I wanted to see. Crazy. Maybe even visit Spain. I had not even informed my employer that I would be gone for this long. But, after years of not using my vacation days, they owed me. And I owed it to myself. By the 5th day, the story at home had transformed. My aunt messaged me unexpectedly. "Heard you're in Europe. Good for you. You deserve some spoiling. Let me know if you want the family to back off." Then I received another message from my older cousin Greg, whom I hadn't seen in years. "Bro, I remember your 18th birthday. You got a card and a handshake. Victor got a car at 18. Just saying, you're not crazy." I stared at it for a time. I was not crazy. I was not overreacting. I had grown accustomed to being treated as an afterthought, so when I pushed back, everyone acted as if I had lost my mind. But here's the thing about space. It gives you perspective. And as I wandered through cobblestone alleyways and watched sunsets over the Tejo River, I began to realize that perhaps I was never the problem. They didn't like it when I quit performing my role. By the 7th day, things at home had reached a new level of chaos. My mother had shared a cryptic statement on Facebook. When your children vanish on you without a word, you start to wonder if the world is upside down. It received nearly 60 comments. A few relatives responded with, "Hope everything is fine," or "Message me." One even tagged me. I did not respond. Instead, I shared a photo of myself at a cafe in Belém, wearing sunglasses and smiling. Caption: Sometimes the best birthday gift is peace. Not 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Mom again. I ignored it. Then a message arrived, this time not from my parents, nor from Victor. It was from my father's work email. "Leo, please call me, this is getting out of hand." I sat back. Why would he text me from work? Then, almost shortly after, another communication arrived from my boss. "Hey, your mom called the office looking for you, said it was urgent. Everything is all right?" My hands got cold. They weren't simply panicking, they were escalating. People who had no business being involved in this. And I realized it wasn't just about my birthday anymore. This was about control. About how they'd always kept an eye on me, defined me, and boxed me in. And how suddenly, when I stepped outside their bounds, they tried to drag me back like a stray dog. I took a deep breath, my heart beating, and typed one last message. "You didn't worry when I was at your house holding a cupcake alone. Don't start worrying now. I'm fine. I'm just not coming back the same." And I intended it. Because the old version of me, the one who tolerated the silence, minimizing, and guilt trips disguised as jokes, was not on this trip. He stayed at home, next to the sad cupcake on the kitchen counter. But what about the version of me who was sipping cappuccino under the Lisbon sun? He was only getting started. And the second thing I did was make it very apparent that I was no longer seeking their consent. The next morning I awoke to a dozen missed calls. 2 from my father, 3 from my mother, and 1 from Victor. The rest are unrecognizable numerals. Probably my mother phoning from multiple phones. Or worse, the family she had drawn into the turmoil. But I didn't care. I was done being the obedient son who always kept the peace. The person who said, "It's fine," when it obviously wasn't. I wasn't going to repeat the same scenario in which I arrived, was overlooked, and then had to apologize. After brushing my teeth, I walked to a tiny bakery near my hotel. The woman behind the desk greeted me as she did every morning. Warmly, cheerfully, and with a genuine grin. I got 2 cakes and a coffee, then grabbed a seat outside. The sky was a lovely blue, striped with clouds, and the street below was waking up. Locals sweeping their stoops, children walking to school, and a man selling books from his wooden cart. I observed them with a peculiar sense of envy. These strangers had no idea who I was, what my background was, or why I was fleeing. However, they treated me better than my own family did. And the revelation hit me harder than I anticipated. That afternoon, I tried something I had never done before. I switched my phone off. Totally off. Not silent. Not set to do not disturb. I turned it off and left it in the hotel room. Then I wandered for hours through twisting alleys and open plazas, past historic churches and bright murals. I got lost in Barro Alto and wandered into a small gallery where a man painted pictures from his dreams. He stated I had sad eyes and strong shoulders. I laughed and told him it was perhaps the most truthful thing anyone had said to me this year. I didn't think of my mother, my father, the cupcake, or Victor's lake house vacation. Instead, I thought about myself. Who I was before I had to shrink to fit into the place they gave me. That night, I purchased a journal. First page I wrote, "You are not selfish for choosing yourself." Second page. They only call it overreacting when they don't like the reaction. On the third sheet, I documented all of the times I was shoved to the side. My 18th birthday was forgotten until dinner, when they gave me a $20 gas card, whilst Victor was treated to a party with friends and a football-shaped cake. They arrived late and left early for Victor's soccer game, despite my valedictorian speech. Christmas 2 years ago, I purchased thoughtful gifts for everyone. Victor completely forgot about mine. Her response was, "He's just busy. Don't guilt trip him." The list went on. It was not about the gifts. It was a pattern. The message, "You are not the first priority. You aren't even close." The next day I turned back on my phone. It detonated immediately. A deluge of texts, voicemails, missed calls, and, unexpectedly, screenshots. Someone had obviously spotted my Instagram post and shared it in the broader family group chat. Now uncles and aunts were chiming in. Some were sympathetic. "Leo, I had no idea. That post broke my heart. You always were so quiet. Maybe too quiet. I wish I'd said something." Others, not so much. Running off and airing dirty laundry on social media? Not the adult thing to do, so dramatic. Everyone gets a cupcake birthday once in a while. Then came the one that sent everything over the edge. My mother had emailed a photo of my empty childhood bedroom. The furniture was rearranged. The bed was gone. My books are boxed up. My workstation has been replaced with a treadmill. She captioned it, "Didn't think you were coming back. Figured we'd use the space." There is no, "I love you," no, "Come home when you're ready," and no apology. Just that. They treated me as if I were a nuisance that they were glad to get rid of. I sat there staring at the television, teeth clenched, heart pounding. And something inside of me flipped. Not sad, not anger, but something colder and clearer. Resolve. I took a deep breath and responded with a single message. "You don't have to make space for me. I've already found mine." And then I did something they never expected me to do. I logged into my bank account. I'd been discreetly saving for years. While Victor wandered from job to job, relying on my parents whenever rent was due, I established something tangible. Investments, a thriving side business, and a six-figure safety net. And now I was going to use it, not only for plane tickets and croissants, but for something more substantial. A few phone calls, paperwork, and a leap of faith. By the end of the week, I had signed the lease for a little flat in the heart of Lisbon. Brick walls, open windows, and a writing nook facing the street. It was not fancy, but it was mine. Then I did one more thing. I wrote an email. A basic and polite message. Not furious or dramatic. Subject: resignation notice. I said I was looking for new chances abroad and thanked them for everything. I didn't mention my mother, her calls to the office, or how humiliating that was. But I believe my supervisor understood. She responded 15 minutes later. "We'll miss you, Leo. But good for you. Go live your life." And that was all. The ties were cut. No more calendar reminders for family birthdays that I'd forget about. No more turning up out of obligation. There will be no more explanations for why I did not put in more effort. I had worked tirelessly for years. Be quiet, patient, and nice. And I was finished. But just when I believed the story had achieved a quiet, serene conclusion, just when I thought they would finally let it go, something occurred. Something drew me right back in. Something made all the calls, shame, and stillness seem like child's play in comparison. And when I discovered what they did next, I realized they weren't just trying to get me home. They were attempting to eliminate me. I found out on a random Thursday morning. I'd just finished a walk along the waterfront. I have coffee in my hand and the sun is on my back. Life was quieter now. More still. I'd adapted to the pace of Lisbon as if it were always mine. No more checking my phone every several minutes. No more jumping at the sound of a buzz or pondering what kind of guilt trip would follow. I had learnt to dwell in the space between breaths, to sit silently without needing to fill it. But that morning, I received an email from Jason, an old college acquaintance. We hadn't spoken in almost a year, but I remembered him being friendly with Victor once. The topic line was short. "Saw this. Thought you should know." The email contained simply one sentence. "Your brother posted this." I sent a screenshot of Victor's Facebook post. The caption reads, "Family isn't about who runs off when things get hard. It's about who stays. I'm proud to be here helping Mom and Dad rebuild after Leo's betrayal." There was a photograph underneath it. My old room. Overpainted with a sterile beige. The bookshelves were cleared. My college diploma, which had hung on the far wall for years, was gone. In its place was a framed photograph of Victor shaking hands with a local business owner. The caption under the image read, "New beginnings." The comments were far worse. Aunt Marissa's greeting. "So proud of you for stepping up. Leo always was different." Shamey, my cousin's wife. Couldn't just talk to the family. Vanishing like that. Immature. And then the kicker, from my own mother. Sometimes the prodigal son doesn't return. But the son who stays builds the future. My hands become numb. I read the sentence 5, 6, and 7 times. They weren't simply deleting me from the room, they were altering the story. Suddenly, I wasn't the calm, steady one who maintained the peace. I was the son who ran. The one who left them behind. The one who did not care. Victor wasn't the golden boy anymore. He was the rescuer. The martyr. The one who stayed to assist mom and dad during their difficult time, which they made for themselves. But this is what impacted me the hardest. They knew I would not defend myself publicly. They were banking on it. They knew I despised drama, confrontation, and show. They expected me to watch calmly from across the seas as they changed the truth. That's when I made my decision. No more silence. No more disappearing to maintain the peace. I opened my laptop and started typing. I did not write a harsh or nasty post. That is not who I am. But I wrote the truth. Calmly. Carefully. Like someone laying down receipts after years of being questioned. I posted it. With no photograph. Just words. For those who have heard a story about me, here is mine. I didn't run away. I did not abandon anyone. I just quit trying to gain the affection and respect that should have come naturally from the folks who reared me. On my brother's birthday, our parents leased a lake house, hired a special chef, and treated him royally. On mine, I got a solitary store-bought cupcake and a card that said, "Maybe next year." When I communicated my pain, I was told I was being overly sensitive. I photographed the present, quietly left, and booked a flight to Lisbon. That decision was not a temper tantrum, it was a boundary. For years, I fulfilled the role they required. Quiet, helpful, low maintenance. I watched as my milestones were skipped, my triumphs were minimized, and my emotions were discarded. And still, I remained loyal. I was given the benefit of the doubt. I showed up. Until I discovered that showing up for people who don't show up for you is not honorable. It is self-abandonment. I've gotten dozens of texts since my departure. Some are kind, while others are harsh. To those who say I should have just spoken up, I did. Multiple times. It didn't really matter until I stopped playing along. I don't want pity. I don't need applause. I just want the truth to exist somewhere free of guilt trips and half-truths. I did not run. I choose serenity. And sometimes, choosing peace entails walking away from those who refuse to see you clearly. I clicked on a post. Then I switched my phone off again. For 2 days. When I turned it back on, I wasn't expecting what I saw. Hundreds of comments. Dozens of messages. My tale has been spread, screenshotted, and reposted. People, friends, distant relatives, and even strangers were joining in. This hit me hard. I've been the background sibling too. Thank you for saying what so many of us can't. This is why emotional neglect is so hard to explain. It's invisible. Until it's undeniable. Only one message stuck out. It came from Danielle, a cousin on my father's side. We hadn't spoken for years. "Leo, I always thought something was off with how they treated you. I just didn't know how to say it. I'm sorry. I see you. And I'm glad you got out." That marked the beginning of additional voices emerging. Not everyone supported me. Some doubled down. My mother, inevitably, sent another passive-aggressive message. Some people air their wounds instead of healing them. Victor texted me once. "Congrats on your little pity parade. You always love playing the victim." I did not respond. Because I wasn't playing anymore. I was finished performing. And life gradually began to fill with genuine things. I joined a writing club in Lisbon. I landed a part-time job editing English language pieces for a travel magazine. I started cooking again, which I hadn't done since college. I made buddies, real ones. Friends who knew nothing about Victor, the cupcake, or the place where I used to live. Friends laughed at my humor, not at me. Who welcomed me out without any expectations. Who listened when I spoke. A month after the piece became popular, I received an email from a publisher who had seen it and wanted to discuss developing it into a memoir. I was unsure at first. But then I remembered every communication I had received. People say I put into words what they've been feeling for years. Maybe my story wasn't unique. Perhaps it also served as a mirror for others. And perhaps, just maybe, my voice, which had previously been discarded as too quiet, was suddenly loud enough to matter. I accepted the deal. A year later, my book was released in 11 countries. Maybe next year, choosing yourself when they never did. The dedication page stated simply, "For the kids with cupcakes and cards who kept waiting for next year. Your peace doesn't need their permission." My parents never communicated again. Victor did it once. They sent me a screenshot of the book cover and said, "Hope the attention was worth it." I didn't respond, because it was never about getting attention, it was about the truth. And when truth is said clearly, it echoes in ways that silence cannot. So, here I am. I live in a sunny apartment on a quiet Lisbon street. Writing, laughing, loving, not too loud, not perfect, but totally. Finally, and when April 5th comes around every year, I don't wait for a text. I get myself the largest, fluffiest cupcake in the bakery, with candles and sprinkles, and a handmade message nestled below it that states, "You're worth celebrating. This year, every year." And for the first time in my life, I actually believe it.